Welcome, everyone. You are listening to The Creators Game. I'm the host, Deya Miller, and we are joined by...
Jay Smith.
And Justin Joseph.
And every week we're going to be talking sports here on Six Nations and everything going on across Turtle Island, across the globe, and just talking lacrosse. So let's get right into it. Let's talk Six Nations. Let's just get started at, let's see, junior C, senior C. Who are we starting at? Who are, the prime people that you look at? And, when you think about even starting a team, how can you gear someone who is C level, B level, or A level? I feel like that is something that, every athlete's where should I start?
I guess depending on the age, if you're in junior level, junior C, it's very competitive. It's rough, it's gritty, it's tough. I had the honor of coaching our junior C team a few years ago. There was a couple of times when we made the Ontario finals, or at one time made the Ontario finals. There was another time, a couple of times when we made it to the Ontario semifinals. So the lacrosse is good. It's gritty. It's tough. It's for me as a coach, I try to get players ready for the next level. So a lot of those guys that were in junior C, I had coached in minor, and oftentimes they're on the bubble making our junior B team. So they get sent down for conditioning, development, and we do our best to get them ready. The junior level is approximately age 16 to 20, 21, depending on when your birthday falls. Because if you have a late birthday and you're turning 21 after the season, you're still eligible to play. If you hit 21 before the season, then you got to bump up to senior. Our senior C squad, Tomahawks, they have a special place in my heart because I started that team in 2019, and we were the first team in the inaugural season of that league, and we did, in fact, win the provincial championship. We went undefeated that year. I had stepped away, and the team became community-based. They had a few bumps in the road, had a couple of hiccups, and last year a new executive invited me back to be the general manager and coach, and we had another successful season. We won a provincial title again. So to get to those teams, oftentimes it's just come out. We get a lot of guys that are playing in the senior C level who are graduating junior, don't know if they can commit to a senior B schedule. As far as senior A, or MSL as it's called, you're playing elite lacrosse there. That's your life. Oftentimes, if you got a day job and your work schedule don't fit, senior C is the place to be. For junior, it's a breeding ground. Junior C is a breeding ground. Get the players ready. Crack the junior B line up with our Rebels. They're multiple-time Founders Cup champions, so it's big shoes to fill. Our community here is lacrosse heavy, and oftentimes if you don't play lacrosse, there's other sports, but everybody seems to come back to our sport because we created it.
So, for those who don't know you, you are the general manager, and you do play a lot of roles here on Six Nations. Of course, being out there and being a general manager, and of course, I think you've coached for years and years. I don't know if you were my coach at one point, but I know you've been coaching for a long time.
Yeah, this is my 23rd year as being either a coach or an assistant coach or a general manager. I've coached minor, of course. Coached in the national, international level with the Team Iroquois program. It's now called Team First Nations. I've been on the bench, and when our boys have won many medals at the national and international level, it's been humbling. Lacrosse, they say, is a medicine game, and it truly is. I don't know how many people can attribute to lacrosse specifically directing their life into a certain direction, but it sure did for me. It's led me now to being the general manager of the Six Nations Rivermen, who are multiple-time national champions as well. And so I've seen a lot of these guys come up, but at this level, we're one step below MSL. It's a chess match for sure. It's almost a full-time job, putting players together, putting the team together, dealing with day-to-day operations, right down to having to do laundry.
Yeah. So it's literally you got a whole squad to take care of.
Oh, for sure. Just before we started, I was on my phone. I had to reach out to some players to make sure they're going to be there. We have a game this Friday, so I had to make sure the players are going to be there. Import players coming in, And when I say imports, they're just not from Six Nations. There's our league functions in a way that it's a non-residential league, so you don't have to live here to play here. So we got guys coming in from other cities, other centers. Justin's case, another country.
Yeah, Justin, tell me a little bit about your story. Like, I know you're coming here and you want to play Six Nations. Or you want to play lacrosse here on Six Nations, but like, tell me a little bit about like what made you get into lacrosse. I know lacrosse is big, but it's just really not that big.
Well, I would say what got me into lacrosse was hating track. So where I'm from, where I grew up, in like a very, very like kind of like the sticks of Pennsylvania. It's like the Wilkes-Barre, Scranton area of Pennsylvania, and football's king there. You're not like they're people who are good at other sports and do other sports, but like nothing really gets the town going like football does. My football games were probably more packed than some college games were, and that was everything. And I think I kind of bought into that because I didn't start playing sports until my 10th grade year. I played football, I wrestled, and I did track. But once you get like that whole, like so much put onto one thing, it kind of makes you start to like fall out of love with it. But for me, I wanted to keep playing because it was like such a big deal. But when I started playing lacrosse, it was just such a different vibe, feeling, energy. It was more alleviating to like my day than anything else was. All those other sports, it was like sometimes you're dreading going to practice and like you knew it was going to be hard. You knew this was going to happen. It was stressful. It wasn't the greatest environment to be in. But when I went to lacrosse, we were a new school, new team. We weren't even school funded. My freshman year was our first year ever having a team. There was probably around like 5 schools with a lacrosse team in my entire area. I didn't actually even know what lacrosse was until my 8th grade year of high school. But I fell in love with it, and then I ended up noticing my senior year of high school that I wanted to play in college, but I didn't want to let go of football. And I think it was more just the wanting to be doing something that other people like cared about. Everyone said how important football was. A lot of people like knocked me for playing lacrosse. So I wanted to keep football going. And I played 1 year of football in college with lacrosse at a D3 school, like home in college. And after my freshman year, I just found out like I didn't really like it that much. I didn't really love it the way I loved lacrosse. I thought I was good at lacrosse, and I was like, if I put all my time into it, like I think I could be like something at it. So I decided to do full-time lacrosse my sophomore year, and then COVID hit. Which
good old COVID,
yeah,
COVID just ruined everything.
I don't think anyone could say a backstory without mentioning 2020. But it was something. It was an experience, a life experience for me. I can say it was probably one of my lowest points personally, dealing with that, and I had a lot of things to think about. I was alone for a lot of it, so a lot of thoughts in my head. But I decided I wanted to like really take it seriously. I just love the sport so much, so I decided to like take my chance going Division I. I was lucky enough to get have someone take a chance on me. The now head coach at NGIT, Eric Wolf, sent him my film, and the first thing he said was, he texted me back saying, "Your film is fire emojis," and I was like, this is it. Like I need to be under someone like him, and yeah, I played there for 2 years. I didn't play my first year. I got hurt, but I played my senior season, and then I transferred to Drexel University for 1 year. And that's bringing me up to most recently, the past year. I graduated from Drexel and got an invite to the PLL, the Outdoor League. Didn't make the team there. It was a decent experience. Got to meet a lot of cool people and stuff like that. Some people I still like try to talk to and like get help out because again, like we're talking about what got me into lacrosse, and like I think I very much love it to the point where I don't know where I'd be without it. Like I want to make this like my full-time thing. So I talked to a lot of those guys, and then I got an invite to an NLL training camp with Panther City. And that's where we're going to get to the most relevant with what the podcast right now is the fact that I went there and I spent, 2 2 weekends before I got cut, unfortunately. But that was probably the best experience, like lacrosse experience I've had since I started playing in high school. Like,
So like since high school, that's been like the best experience. But like now you're around here and you see like the community like getting together. How does that like compete with that experience of like you being in that big around like the like like the big leagues up there, but then around here like this is big leagues as well. So like how does it differentiate? Like how does it feel when you like maybe go to a game out there as to like around here, and then how does it make you feel about lacrosse?
it's really nice for the fact of like, it's nice to be somewhere where I'm not the only one that likes the sport as much as I do, and finds it like so fun to watch and like loves to like learn something new about it. When I went to the training camp and when I came here, it was just to see someone who was raised in an environment where lacrosse was such a big thing was really cool to me. And like, not saying that like I would have changed and wish I was somewhere that like cared about it more, but it's just really cool to see that there are places where the sport that I love gets the attention that I think it deserves. I think lacrosse is like hopefully at some point going to be a top 5, 4, 3 like mainstream sport, and it's really cool. Like he was talking about how big it is here, and like one of the coolest things I've seen since I've gotten here is almost every house that I go by has a field goal and a box goal. I don't think you could drive by a house without seeing one. I think I've seen 3 so far that don't have one. It's probably in their backyard, and I just don't see it. So I think that's probably the biggest thing, is just seeing like that there are other people that like that there's a group of people that care about it just as much as I do, and it's really cool to see.
Yeah, it's awesome, and I love that like lacrosse it was like medicine for you, right? It's like
Yeah.
the creator's game. That's what it's for. Like, especially in a time like COVID, when it's like, oh yeah, you need something. It's like you got a lacrosse stick right there. Like, it'll get you through it.
Mm-hmm.
It's something to do. It's something to think about. Get your mind off things and get you to where you need to be. So now that we know that you know lacrosse, and sounds like you're pretty good, we're gonna run through some names, and you're gonna tell us if they're trash or not.
Okay.
Or could you like like maybe like, oh yeah, I've seen them play, because we're gonna be talking about some local players. So I want to start with, now we got the C League for juniors and we got C League for seniors, but let's just focus on the senior right now, because that's basically what's gonna get them to go to maybe pro or go off to these camps that are bigger. So senior C, who's the lineup right now, and who's to look out for, and who could be potentially moving up?
Senior C this year, they played one tournament. That's how their season goes. It's tournament style. There's a lot of new faces on that team. I don't know whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, but me moving to the Rivermen, some players came with me. It's just the nature of the beast. But for Senior C right now, they've just recently picked a new captain in Travis Stotts, and I don't think that you could find a better person to fill that role, because last year's captain is with me on the Rivermen.
Oh, picking favorites already. I thought you were giving him props. That was a little sideways there.
No. Trav deserves it. He's one of those guys that you can depend on. It doesn't matter what it is. What you want him to do, he'll do it. No questions asked. He knows if he is given a role, if he's going to be a role player for a game, then that's what he'll do. If he's a great utility man, he can play both ends of the floor, and he's very deserving of being the leader of that team. I expect big things out of them this year, and Trav on a personal level.
So, like, who else can we look out for, like, on, Senior C that isn't on Senior B? Or let's talk about Senior B, someone who has already come up.
Okay. Again, with the Tomahawks, they're going through some growing pains. There's new faces. Their goaltending, Quentin Martin, he was out with us for a little bit, and he went to the Tomahawks. I think he's going to be probably their backbone. He's a stellar goaltender. He's very solid. He's takes a lot to get in his brain, so he does well. He does good. There's a lot of up and coming guys on that team. There's some wily veterans who hadn't played that are back out. Again, I expect big things out of them. They got a really good guy coaching this year. Kyle Jamieson, former NLL player, former world player. He's taken over the reins for the Tomahawks, and I can't really see them doing poorly. They're going to be a top 2 team in that league. Now, Rivermen, that's my baby this year.
And you're playing favorites already.
there's a lot of returning players there. There's a group of guys, a core group, that have been there for a lot of years. Guys like Jake Kranz, he's been with the Rivermen steady. He's a great player. One of our leaders on and off the floor. Marcus Elvin, another great guy. We have Jordan Durston, former Buffalo Bandit. He's with us. Great guy, another leader. My own son, Lane Smith. I don't want to be playing favorites, but he is my son, and he's right now currently the league leading goal scorer. And from the back end, we got Dusty Hill back, and in net, Dustin is a Georgia Swarm product. We gave a young fella a chance this year in the backup role in goaltending, in Elon Henhock. Elon is another one of these players who are steady, does whatever you ask him to. He accepts his role if he's given one. Our defense is a smothering style defense. We got guys like Rod Squire, who's been the captain of the Rivermen for quite a few years. Mike McLaughlin. List goes on. On the right side, Wes Whitlow. Wes Whitlow can pull a shot out of some place where there's no shot to be taken, and he'll score 9 times out of 10. Jordan Goddard's another great guy on the right side. I don't know. I could go on and on and on and on about them. Like I said, we literally have guys blowing up my phone wanting a crack at the Rivermen, and which is a nice. It's a nice problem to have.
Do you ever like playing? Obviously, you have to play other teams and stuff like that. But some of these players probably reach out and then they're not good enough to make it, and then you end up having to play them. Do you ever just kind of be like, "Man, we're gonna wash you"? Like, you used to message me. I'm sorry, bud, but we're gonna beat you tonight.
Jokingly, I've said it to a few guys. There was a couple of local guys from Six Nations here that have went and played on other teams, and if I see them in the off season, I'm like, "Are you coming to join us this year? Are you going to come try out for the Rivermen?" They're like, "Yes" or "no," depending on their answer. Will dictate my answer. Sometimes they're like, "No, we want to beat you guys," and I'm like, "Well, good luck with that, because you didn't and you couldn't in the past." But I tried jokingly. I'll tease them a little bit. The guys will tease me back, but I don't come right out and just say you're trash, you're this. I mean, not to their face. No, there's guys that have reached out that aren't comfortable with the team that they're with, or some guys say, it's been my dream to play on this team. And in all fairness to everybody involved, all I can do is say, come to practice and we'll give you a shot. And it's not just my decision. I'm the general manager, but I try to be very transparent. I bounce everything off of our head coach. This year is Derek Graham, and I don't know if you know Derek Graham, but his player resume and coaching resume speak for themselves. I mean, the guy's won everything there's to win as a player, probably twice in some cases. But I mean, he's had a bit of a layoff, but he was like general manager for the Buffalo Bandits, and he was a phenomenal player. And he's from the city of Brantford, and he even has his own little spot in the Brantford Sports Hall of Fame. But the guy's phenomenal. He's a wealth of knowledge. The president of the team is a former player, Wayne Hill, another guy that I've stayed very transparent with. I work with him quite well. It's just very humbling to be brought in with the Rivermen, because it's family based. Wayne's grandfather, Cap Bunbury, started the team, and for me, it's very humbling to be brought in, because Cap played with my uncle, and they've won President's Cups together. So, and our families on the lacrosse floor, our families worked well together. So to me, it's full circle. And now I guess I have something to prove that bringing me in was a good decision. So I got to prove that. But after we play and I go back into the dressing room and there's old Cap sitting there with a big smile on his face, I know I must be doing something right.
Well, you guys are winning. You must be doing something right. So, of course, people move up to the Rivermen, but then at some point they're going to have to move up to the Chiefs. How does that conversation go, and how does it feel? Maybe sometimes losing players, or is it kind of just like, I'm glad they're kind of moving up, and I wish the best for them?
Sometimes, depending on the player, if the Chiefs give us a call and say we need this guy for that guy for the game, we have a good working relationship with the Chiefs. The way the whole OLA runs is you have affiliates. So we're affiliated with the Rivermen, or with the Chiefs. The Rivermen are affiliated with the Tomahawks, and so on. The Chiefs can pull from any one of us. They can even pull from the intermediate team in minor, or U22 as it's called now, because MSL is as high as you can go in the amateur sports leagues here in the OLA. So if the Chiefs, Dwayne Jacobs, he's the GM. You know, another great guy, knows his stuff. Obviously knows his stuff. I mean, he's got rings on as a player and a coach on both hands. Great guy. He'll shoot me a text or call me or actually. Justin met him at our last game because he was there to watch. Because he sent us a couple of guys. I want you to play these guys, see how they are on the floor, and sorry, Dewey, if you're watching, we're going to keep them. But he
Just
will,
taking the players.
Oh
right?
yeah, he'll send them to us to develop because MSL, as fast as our league is in OSL or Senior Bs, it's called, as fast as it is, you get to the Chiefs, it's a whole nother level because most of those guys are. Is where the NLL players play in the summer, is in the MSL or the WLA out west. But most of them on each roster in the MSL are NLL guys. So if you can crack one of them rosters or get pulled up, you know that's your chance to shine. Some guys may only get one shot. Some guys get called up multiple times. Sometimes there's been a time or two where the Chiefs had called up Rivermen players and kept them.
So, like, before we move to the roster of the Chiefs, where would you see yourself? Like, I know you probably see yourself, like, on top of, like, the Chiefs or something like that. You know, you're up there. But, like, who would you say is, like, on the Chiefs right now? Before we get into the roster, who's someone on the Chiefs that you're like, yeah, I've seen them play. Shout out to them. Before we get into it.
I would say, obviously, like Lyle Thompson and stuff like that is just a freaking joy to watch. But I like looking at most of the defensive guys. Who would I say is the best one? He's a lefty. I like losing the name right now. He played for. I remember I saw him because he played for the Cannons, but I'm like bad with names right now. What's his name? Yeah, long hair.
The guy on the Chiefs?
Yeah, long hair. I was just messing him on Instagram too.
I'm not even sure. They honestly bring in some of the guys.
Microphones.
Oh yeah. Sorry about that. I'm used to being mic'd here.
Oh. All right, next time.
Long hair Chiefs. D guy. I don't know, honestly.
Yeah, I actually know his name, but since I'm in front of cameras, completely blanked out. Because I've talked to him recently, so that's why I remember. And I was watching him play because obviously coming up here and not knowing, I'm getting into box. Mm-hmm. I don't know if the thing I have reference, but I've played field my whole life and I'm getting into box and I've loved it, so I'm trying to learn it.
Tyson Bell?
Yes, that's exactly it. Wow, you got that. You got that for me. But yeah, I've been watching a lot of Tyson Bell. Because I loved watching him play. He's really aggressive. He plays really athletically and stuff like that. And with a fire that I want to play with, you know. And I feel like now that I'm playing box, I'm going to get the opportunity to play with. But I think he's probably one of my favorite players to watch. He plays left-handed just like me, and he's probably the person I'm trying to emulate the game just as much.
I know Tyson. He's a very approachable guy, very humble, and you're right. On the floor, he's a beast. Off the floor, one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. I don't know when they start practicing, but I mean, we could even go check it out one of these times. But Chiefs guys, Tyson's up there, yeah. Their roster. Where do you want to start? Right side, offense, left side, goaltending.
Goaltending, started goaltending.
Goaltending, okay. Dougie Jamieson and Warren Hill.
Woo, Warren Hill.
King of the Hill, as they call him.
Yes, Warren Hill. Love Warren Hill.
So
childhood friend.
Funny story. Again, the family that started the Rivermen. Cap is also Warren's grandfather because Warren and our president, Wayne, are twin brothers. You wouldn't be able to tell by looking at them because Wayne is a lot bigger. But Warren's goalie for the Halifax Thunderbirds as well. And a very humble guy, very super nice guy. If you want to talk lacrosse, he'll talk lacrosse. He'll talk anybody's. He's a great guy. Knows the game. Very, very, very high IQ on the floor. It's a friendly battle between him and Dougie every summer playing. Could they play against each other in the NLL and their teammates in MSL, and it's always a battle. It's a good problem to have. Like, who are we going to start? Because we have two number one goalies in the NLL.
And that must be a great, like, kind of competition thing because, like, both of you guys deserve it and stuff like that, but always the competition of, like, while you're teammates with someone you're usually opponents with, it's always trying to get a little bit better than them.
Well, and Dougie, I've known since he was very young. I coached him in field lacrosse. I coached him in box from the time of he was maybe 12. Great guy, very humble. He's won almost everything there is to win already in his young career as well. I think the NLL Cup is what has eluded him thus far, but he's won the Mann Cup, he's won the Minto Cup, he's won the Founders Cup. In minor field lacrosse, we've won the provincial championships. We've medaled at the national level. And Dougie's a great guy. Again, I think it's a great problem to have two goalies like that. You can flip a coin; it doesn't really matter who wins because you're still going to win.
That's got to piss a lot of other teams off. Like, just to have to come to Six Nations and they're just like, man, look at every time, like two number one goalies. Really? But I love it. I love that.
Yeah, and then like on their DN, we got Tyson Bell basically anchoring the defense. There have just been some acquisitions. They've brought in Brad Cree from Oakville. He's been a Chiefs member before. Another great D guy. They just got Steve Priolo as well. So I mean, they're bringing in NLL monster guys. They're loading up. I can foresee a Mann Cup being played here this summer because Ontario hosts the Mann Cup. Winner of Ontario title, it will host the Mann Cup. So I can see that Mann Cup being played here at the ILA again.
Yeah, that'd be great for Six Nations and great for the Mann Cup as well. Like, obviously. So like let's talk a little bit NLL right now. Who is number one? Like, if we really had, let's just go to the very top. Who is the number one player in the league right now?
You want to go statistics-wise or in my opinion?
Let's give the opinion first,
Okay.
because the opinion, we always know that you're going to choose your opinion, and it's going to be your favorite. So knowing that, we want to know who your favorite is, and then we can go to statistically.
My favorite player in the NLL right now that is still playing or overall? Because
Let's do still playing.
okay, still playing right now. I got to give shout-outs to local boys. Dougie Jamieson, Trav Longboat, Marshall Paulus, Dehogananikoke with Buffalo. I gotta give props to them. They're local boys. They're living their dream. I'll give a shout out to Matt Vink too, goalie for Buffalo. I had the honor of being his assistant coach with one of our field teams here. Another great guy. But those guys on the current teams that are still playing, those got to be my favorites. I can't forget the great Dane though. Dane Smith, can't forget.
I was about to interrupt. I was going to say, like, that guy is absolutely unreal. Dane Smith, I mean, me watching these games and watching him play, especially this run they're having right now, it's just like that guy cannot, like, miss an open spot on a net. Like, it's like any shot he wants to take, he can. He can do what he, like, in my opinion, he's out there just doing whatever he wants to do because he knows it's going to work. Like, him and Josh Byrne are just, like, playing with everybody. And I'm pretty sure they're holding their team, like, with a stranglehold right now, pushing through these playoffs and to the championship right now. In my opinion, I would say those two are probably, like, the best ones in the NLL right now.
Well, and Dane is always out there with Dehogananikoke. They're a pretty good 1-2 punch on the righty offense side. So it's going to be tough if I have to choose. If I were made to choose who's going to win, I don't think I could because I got much love for guys on both teams.
So, like, those are, like, statistically now, who is number one?
I don't pay attention to stats.
You don't pay attention to stats. The general manager doesn't pay attention to stats.
Well, not in a league I'm not involved in, but I mean,
Who knows? You can get there. You can get
maybe
there.
it would be a dream. Statistically, there is guys that are better. Some are still playing, but I mean, do you go regular season stats, playoff stats? Like, prime example right now, Nick Rose is up for MVP of the whole league from regular season. Nick Rose is a goalie for the Toronto Rock. Nick Rose is a great goalie, has a great defense in front of him, but in my opinion, there are better goalies. who have saved the game themselves single-handedly. Not taking anything away from Nick, but if you want to talk statistically, he was the number one goalie regular season. However, then you look at a goalie like Frank Scigliano, who plays for Saskatchewan. They didn't do very well this year, but he has the most saves for a single season. So either he's getting a lot of shots or he's really good.
Now, what about you? Like, what's your thoughts?
I would say if we're looking at like kind of a mix of opinion and statistics, outside of the two that I mentioned before, because I think that we maybe at least 5 people is in such a big league, but I would say Jake Withers is another one because that guy is. Honestly, I don't think I'd ever want to play offense against him. Like, he's not. I don't think he's the biggest or the fastest. It's just he just seems so angry all the time. I'm pretty sure he's a really nice guy. Like as a face-off guy myself, like I've seen things of him, stuff like that. He seems like a really nice dude. But when he touches any field floor, it's like a flip switches. And I think I've seen it. Like I think I've seen someone like casually turn the camera to him and like that switch just flipped. And I'm just like, okay, get away from him now. But him and then definitely Jeff T as well on the Riptide. Those two, I think, statistically and actual like performance-wise, were always so consistent. And I think rather than like statistics, 'cause people can have such really big inflating games. Like you can have like 2 games where you don't score like don't have a point, and then you can have a thing where you go like 12, you know, and then that's obviously great for you, like everyone looking at you and stuff like that. But I think consistency is one of the things that make really great players, and I think outside of Dane and Byrne, I would say Withers and Teat were, I would say the other two that I would say are definitely up there for a conversation for being like one of the best.
That's so true that you say that consistency is like very important, because I noticed that like, well, obviously lacrosse is a very fast-paced sport, so like you could be like up 12 and then down very quick or something like that. So like what as a player, what kind of keeps you like consistent throughout the game, like to basically essentially not fall behind?
The thing that keeps me consistent is, for me personally, is never getting overly emotional about something. I feel like if you have too high of a high, then like you hit a rock that puts you on a big low. And then if you're on a low, if you like sink too deep into it and get so like caught up on it, you never see the avenue to get back like on that high. You know what I mean? So I would say the thing that keeps consistency sometimes is a little bit of emotional maturity, and also realism, you know? Like no matter how good you're doing and how bad you're doing, you have to understand the type of player you are and like the ability that you have. I think a lot of times people very much put themselves in categories of I'm playing well today and I'm playing bad today, and they make it where that category is the only thing that they can be in. But there's always this baseline that you always have to remember, and no matter how good or bad you're doing, you always want to make sure like you're getting on that baseline and understand where your baseline is. Like a lot of people say like do something within your ability or play within your ability, and I think knowing what your abilities are keeps you grounded in a spot where you always have somewhere to come back from, and I think that can keep you consistent.
Yeah, one thing I was always taught, like with lacrosse, was just that like half the game is played in your head, and then to leave it all on the floor once it's over. So essentially, like you know, like what were you feeling going into the game? If you weren't prepared going into the game, you probably were gonna play like shit when you like got on the floor. And then not only that, like once the game's over, or once that period's over, at least just kind of leave it there and like adjust, because yeah, like you could be up, and then all of a sudden it gets to your head, and then you'll be just like, oh yeah, we're up, and then boom, next period starts, and you're just down, and then it could be just a roller coaster. But those players who actually are really good are consistently and they're emotionally in the game, and they're already there, like 50%. They're already ahead of the game because they already played it halfway throughout their head.
Yeah, and I think a big thing is also knowing like even pregame, how you're feeling then doesn't dictate how you're going to play in the game. I've had games, I know other people have games where like they felt phenomenal. You know, you're passing, you're throwing, you're shooting, you're doing your little like warm up type of thing, and you're like I can pick up a mountain right now. Like I feel great. And then you go out in the game and nothing is going your way. You know what I mean? Like you felt hype. You're like confident. You go out there, 2 drop passes like in a row. Like you're throwing balls over people's heads. You're not even touching the cage, and you're just like, what the heck is going on right now? And I think one of the biggest things is understanding that like how you feel in a certain moment doesn't dictate what's going to happen in the future. A lot of people think about like what's happening right now and how that's going to dictate like what's going to happen next. But what's going on now is usually never going to dictate like your next play and stuff like that. So that's where that baseline always comes in, because like your head can be a very scary place really, really fast. It could become your worst nightmare instantly. And for me as a face-off guy, for people who don't know a lot about it and things like that, a lot of it is mental. You know, like it's a very complicated and then simple piece of the game all in one. And a lot of it can be based off of like what's going on in your head. You know what I mean? And I've always been taught and I've always learned through playing is no matter how you are as a person, when you go out on the floor or the field, you have to have this unrealistic, unrelenting, just bogus confidence in yourself. You know what I mean? Like you have to know who you are and like don't let anything. Like you can be out there playing like everyone in the stands is like, get him off now. And you're out there playing like crap and you're like, I'm still that guy. You know what I mean?
That's me. I'm like, yo, Mohawk, man, I don't give a fuck. I'm out here playing. Like, I just feel like the shit right now. I'm probably like trash.
Yeah, like that's the biggest thing. Like you have to understand who you are as a person and who you are as a player. You know what I mean? And not letting one performance or 5 minutes, 10 minutes, a quarter, anything change the way that you believe yourself to be. You know, that's, I think, one of the biggest things, because like everyone has a bad game and everyone has a good game. But you have to know, like, you.
Yeah, and that's actually carried with the game. Like, it's the creator's game, right? It's about like how you carry yourself, like on and off the field, and when you go into the game, when you leave the game, and leave it all on the floor. And as a coach, like, how do you kind of gauge those players? Because I feel like a lot of times in lacrosse, you'll see some of the players, and it'll be like they could have been superstars. How do you gauge that as like a general manager when you see these talented players come in and you're just like, if you would just focus on this beautiful sport, it could make your life just so much more better.
Well, for me as coaching and stuff, it's you got to notice it and you got to jump on it right away, because sometimes players don't even notice it, or they try to hide it and they're doing a very poor job of it. One of the things is it was taught to me by Timmy Bunbury, the psychology of the game on the fly. Like if you're on the bench and you see somebody like a young player and junior might be going up and down the floor on a shift and come on the bench and be looking for his mom or dad. They're not there, so then he hits a low because nobody's there to watch him. It's our job as bench staff to keep that player at that level. Don't focus up there. You stay here. Stay here. Somebody goes out and has a bad shift, like you said, drop 2 passes or whatever, then they're going to beat themselves up rest of the game. It's our job to make sure, stay elevated, stay here. In between periods, go off, check on them. Are you okay? We just had that in our game the other night. Our head coach pulled one guy aside and said, "Are you good? What's going on? Anything bugging you?" Because you could see that there was something. And they had a chat, pulled him off the side, had a chat. Kid went out and was on fire after that. So from a coaching standpoint, we do try to identify. We try to learn each player, sometimes albeit very quickly, because if you're coming onto a team where you don't know anybody, you're learning everybody's habits on the fly. It isn't like locally here. A lot of these guys we've known since they were kids. We know the family history. We know the background. We know what family they come from. So, oh yeah, your uncle taught you this or that. Cool. Try to use that in the game, but then we may have to try to get them to modify it, even though they've been doing it for 10 years or whatever. Small community, we get to know quite a bit of people. When you get at this level, you got players coming in from everywhere, and we have to learn them and their habits on the fly. So I hate to say it, I hate to say generic stuff, but sometimes you just got to blanket everybody with the same speech, the same motivational speech as a lot of coaches will go in and say, and they want to make sure everybody hears it. But there are times when you have to pull one or two guys aside and say, what's going on? Where's your head? How can we fix this? If I have to sit you next game so we can wrap our heads around this and get it fixed, we will. It's not personal. At this level, it's not personal. It's business. So, I mean, a prime example, Justin's relatively new to the box game. So if I said to him, we want you to work on this or this before you come out to next practice, I'll be able to tell if he has. Just being honest.
You're gonna have to tell me some things to do.
I will.
Yes, sir.
So let's get a little bit before we wrap it up. Let's talk a little bit of politics with lacrosse. Like, what is the issue going on with the whole thing when we have another logo up there, the Grand River Warriors? What was the issue with that? I want to know, what was the issue with the OLA and then Hood and Haudenosaunee people coming together trying to play some lacrosse?
So, history lesson for you too now, Justin. Grand River Warriors, they're in the Can-Am. They're new. They're an expansion team in the Can-Am Loop, in the Can-Am League. It's in a different country. Some rules are different. So basically, they're based in New York State. They play at the Senior B level, which they're under the Lacrosse Canada umbrella, even though they're in the U.S. They compete for the President's Cup, same as we do. So, I mean, to me, it made sense, and there's been rumblings of having a Can-Am team here for a lot of years because we just have that many players. And after the Chiefs have their roster set, Rivermen have their roster set, Tomahawks have their roster set, there's a lot of guys who are too old for junior and haven't made any of these senior teams, and they still want a place to play. So kudos to the guys that started the Grand River Warriors. They're playing in that loop. I watched them play. We had a scrimmage against them. They're a tough team. They're a good team. They're talented. The political side of it is right from the ground up. The guys that run the Grand River Warriors, they've come to guys who have previously had Can-Am experience, asking for help, asking, what do we do here? What's this rule mean? What does this paperwork? How do we got to fill this out? I mean, they're doing a great job, but they are hitting roadblocks after roadblocks after roadblocks, dealing with, for example, player transfers. So if a player has played in the OLA the year before and wants to play in Can-Am, even though they're from Six Nations, Can-Am, the Grand River Warriors practices here on Six Nations, they're in a different league. So quite frankly, they have to jump through a lot of hoops with Lacrosse Canada to put in a transfer just to physically go and be in the same building they were in an hour before if they could have been on the floor with the Tomahawks. So that's one political hoop. Another one is a player transferring, another example, a player transferring from the OLA to Can-Am. If he was say they were with the Rivermen previously, the OLA states that a player transaction can only you can't release a player. Basically, it has to be by transaction. So a player can put in for a transfer from the OLA to Can-Am. It can be approved by Lacrosse Canada, but then an OLA team can come along and say, well, you have to compensate us because our rules state there can be no player transfer without a transaction. Basically, what they're saying is we can't trade you this guy without a transaction. Can't just release him and let him go sign there. Has to be a transaction. Transaction could be trade for another player, could be a dollar value, and to me, sometimes I think a player should be able to play where they want, especially with our background as Haudenosaunee people. We have dual citizenship. We can cross the border freely. We should be able to play our game freely, in my opinion. But on the other side of the coin, signing as a membership association within the OLA, we've agreed to abide by their rules. So from a OLA standpoint, there's rules we have to follow. From a Can-Am standpoint, there's rules they have to follow, and they're not exactly the same set of rules. So that's where the Warriors are stuck. And they're a new team, a bunch of great guys, but they're stuck in there because at times I think that they're not being given all the information they should or how to proceed. So they're asking for outside help, and it seems like they hit roadblock after roadblock after roadblock with higher ups in both leagues that don't want to help. I help when I can because I do know about this much of the rules in Can-Am, But on the OLA side of things, I do what I can. And there's times when I've been wrong, and I've said, well, I don't care if I'm right or wrong on this. Let's figure it out. I just went through a little bit of stuff yesterday. I'm like, I don't care. If I'm right, fine. If I'm wrong, I'm still going to learn the process for future. And I said that similar in an email to one of the higher ups in our leagues here, and I just said, it doesn't matter whether I'm right or wrong. I just want to get through the process so I know what it is. That way I can help different teams, different leagues, whatever. And that's, in a nutshell, that's the political side of it. And then again, President's Cup time, Grand River Warriors, if they win the Can-Am League, will be able to play for the President's Cup. And then there's a different set of rules because it's Lacrosse Canada that looks after that.
So essentially, there's a lot of rules and a lot of hoops to jump through for it to be run successfully. However, it can still be done.
It can be done. Honestly, that's what a lot of players don't. I won't say they don't understand or don't grasp it. Most players don't know what goes on behind the scenes, and that's not a bad thing because I wouldn't want my players to get too worried about what's going on behind the scenes because then it takes their mind off the game at hand. Like, let me deal with the stuff. Let Wayne deal with the stuff. Let us behind the scenes deal with what we got to deal with. You just do what you got to do on the floor. And the end result thus far is a 4-1 record.
Yeah, and even is it someone who just plays music at the game or something like that? When I'm over there at crossword on the other side of the bench there, by the penalty box and all that stuff, it's always kind of just you got so much going on. You got apps and stuff like that. There's an actual app that in real time this game is going on a tablet. And I did not know that. I was like, oh, I thought we're gonna keep track. I played lacrosse. This is what we do. We keep track. But now there's a whole app. I did not know there was an app and the game is happening in front of you on this freaking app. I didn't know that until this year.
Yeah, there's a few leagues have went electronic.
And we don't have the internet for it. We never have the internet for it.
No, our home arena does not have Wi-Fi. So there is an app. It's called Game Sheet. And this is the OSL or Senior B first year using it. And
okay, so I'm not late then.
No.
Okay.
The league itself, but other leagues have used it. Minor lacrosse has used it for a while. There's been other leagues that have used it for a couple of years. This is our first year using it, and I got to tell you, it's been a headache. Without a Wi-Fi signal, we were lost. Our first 3 games were on the good old-fashioned Game Sheet because there was so many issues with the app, and the league's breathing down my neck. You got to do this, got to do that, and at the end of the day, just so many people trying to do so many different things. It was delegated. Okay, you take care of you got a tablet, you got an iPad, whatever. You take care of the Game Sheet app. I got to do this. This guy's going to do this. We're going to do this. And then we come to find out that after many phone calls, many texts that I receive from the Senior B commissioner, who was getting on me pretty heavy about it, we were honestly ready to throw in the towel. Good friend of mine, good friend of yours, Neil Henhock. Shout outs to Neil, NLL timekeeper for the Toronto Rock. Huge part of minor lacrosse here. He helps out with the Rivermen. He kind of took the reins on that, and between him and Wayne, they got the thing working, and we're golden now. But yeah, it was frustrating. And you're right, we can show the game scores in real time if we had Wi-Fi. But as the app sits, timekeeper puts in what's going on, and then afterwards we upload the game, so it can be found on the Game Sheet app.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to sponsor our arena some Wi-Fi that works, that would be great, because those refs are just harassing the lady, timesheet lady, just you got to use the app, and we can't do nothing about the Wi-Fi.
Exactly. I went to the refs our last few games, and I'm like, look, we got to go Game Sheet. So, if you're okay with it, we're okay with it. Just don't give anybody a hard time. We won't give. And they're not even used to it. It's literally brand new for the league. We had an away game in Brooklyn. They used the Game Sheet because they couldn't figure out the app either. So I get that the league wants to progress and move on to, into the 21st century, but sometimes just good old-fashioned pen and paper are the best way to go.
Or just play the creator's game. Just get out there.
This honestly, I love lacrosse. It's been a medicine for me for almost my whole adult life. And there are times when I get pissed off because it has come so far from our actual medicine game too. Though, I got friends that they're very very big on saying you shouldn't call it that because we're so far from it. That you guys have taken our game and politicized it. You've made it. You've did things for financial gain. Could these other teams handle a good old fashioned medicine game?
I mean, I feel like they need it.
So do
Just,
I.
just one.
But could they round up 1,500 players and play against us with just woodies and no pads?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know about that one. Well, what's going on this week for lacrosse on Six Nations? We're going to come back. We're going to be talking more. We're going to have more guests and things like that. But Six Nations lacrosse. Before we get out of here, what is all coming up this week?
There's minor lacrosse games pretty much every evening. I know that. That's where Neil is. Neil's reffing right now. We, the Six Nations Rivermen, have a game this Friday, May 17th, 8 p.m. at the Six Nations Sports Memorial Cultural Center. 8 o'clock in the evening. As the old saying goes by Mr. Ray Miracle, get there early to get a seat, but you only need the edge. Tomahawks, I know that their schedule dictates that they play 1 week in the month. The month of May may have them playing twice, but I don't think they have anything going on. Chiefs, MSL hasn't started yet. They generally start closer to the end of May, beginning of June. Grand River Warriors, their schedule, I know they have less teams in the league, so their schedule is a bit more sporadic. I do know that they have games coming up. Again, great bunch of guys. Actually, the Tomahawks lost more players to the Grand River Warriors than they did to the Rivermen, so I'm not playing favorites.
Oh. Shots fired. Shots fired.
This Wednesday for the Rivermen, there's practice at 8 o'clock. Justin, I hope to see you there. Okay. We got to see what you got.
Yes, sir. You'll be pleasantly surprised.
All right, everyone. That was episode 1 of The Creator's Game. Thanks for listening.